Yo, welcome back everybody. My name is Devin here at Paradyme. We have started a new book called The Catalyst by Jonah Berger. We have started chapter 1 titled Reactance. Go ahead and leave us a subscribe, a like, and a comment. Leave us some feedback. That's why we're doing this. We'd love to hear what you guys are thinking about the podcast this far. Make sure to do all those things and head down to the description down below. We have all of our social media down there, and I hope you guys enjoy this podcast.
Search for a new set of rules.
Bread is of little use to the man who has betrayed his soul.
Maybe you're the protagonist in your story, but like there's a million other people.
Welcome back to Paradyme Podcast. It is the 21st of June, 2021. It's a beautiful day. It's 103 degrees outside.
Hell yeah.
Absolutely disgusting. So this week we're actually starting a brand new book. We just finished 12 Rules for Life and Antidote to Chaos by Dr. Jordan B. Peterson. Amazing book. I would recommend it. Go ahead and pick it up. But now we are going with a choice from our own Devin.
Our very own Devin.
Our very own Devin.
Do you guys have a Devin? We got it.
Yeah. From our very own Devin. And I actually wanted to ask him some questions about why he chose this book. If you can actually tell us what the book is, why you chose it, where you found it.
Did you tell him the book?
I did not. I'm going to let him do that.
Oh, okay.
So I'm heavy in like understanding how the mind works and why we do things. Like I always hated sales when you talk to people in sales and how they could nitpick certain responses out of you, and like so how I was referring to the book called Never Split the Difference, that deals with things of this nature as well. So he for example, he talks about yeses. There's 3 types of yeses. You have a yes that's very you're just saying yes to kind of in the conversation, like you're just yes to go. You have a committed yes, and then you also have a yes, forget the other option. But it's almost like when you talk to people, if you understand the type of person you are and you understand the person you're negotiating with, because realistically I already know this book is going to get into negotiation. Yeah. Because that's really what conversation is, anything in life. I liked it because obviously How to Change Anyone's Mind, that's like a very attractive title.
Right, of course.
And if you can educate yourself on how your mind works and how other people work, whether they can acknowledge it or not, I think that gives you a heads up in life, right? Mm-hmm. You can kind of see things at an overview and a very like, take yourself outside of your body and hear yourself talk or hear that person's talk and be very, like, you can analyze the situation rather than just react off emotion like, oh, I don't like the way you're talking to me. Oh, I don't like the way you said that. Like, they're saying stuff, or they might be trying to sell something, or if it's manipulation or whatever, you can pick up on it because we're reading stuff like this. Yeah. So to me, if you don't read things like this, if you're not trying to educate yourself on how your mind works, how response, communication, and how people negotiate, you're doing yourself a dishonor. Like
disservice?
Disservice. Like, you should be trying to educate yourself in how your mind works and how people respond to certain, if it's conversation, if it's deals, if it's sales, if it's anything. Communication is by far, to me, the most important thing that someone should be learning.
Oh, yeah.
So if you want to elevate, I think communication and understanding how negotiation and how your mind works is very like important.
Awesome. But, so how did you come across this book, or where was it introduced to you?
I want to say that book that I'm referring to, Never Split the Difference. Yeah. But I don't think it was that. I think it was from an author. His name is Jim Quick. He has a book called Limitless. Mm-hmm.
I think I have that.
Yeah. But I don't know. I can't, because I have so many books on my list. Right. I really can't remember. Like, this was so far down that I was like, dude, because I was gonna get this book at one point, but I just didn't, because I just keep adding and adding and adding and adding.
Okay. But last follow-up question: of all the books on your list, why did you choose this one?
Because I'm actually rereading that book. Never Split the Difference. Literally. Okay. And so now that like I listened to the introduction, I'm like, this is like, okay, to give it more of a context, think of 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Never Split the Difference is that, and this is Nice Bike.
So like diving into one subject of it.
This is like
overview. Yeah,
this is like a super, you get to understand it on the surface. If you want to dive into negotiation and strategies and like why people like, it's really talks about FBI negotiations, and because you can really nitpick that on everything, and how conversations with your mom go, conversations with your boyfriend, girlfriend, how to negotiate what food you go get to eat. That talks about strategy and what words you should be saying and how to get people to how to ask the proper questions so you have the person negotiating with themselves rather you're just there sitting there.
That's actually what they mentioned too in that first chapter.
So really that book is very like informative. This is like a surface level, like very easy read. That's an easy read too, but it's more like in depth. It's bigger. It's a bit more full of context.
Okay. So question: do you guys want to get into pre-meeting questions or skip those until later?
What do you guys think?
I kind of feel like skipping them for now.
Okay.
So we can just jump straight into the book.
So what were you guys' first impression of the first chapter?
Did we say the name of this book yet?
Yeah.
For the readers? Okay.
Did he? I don't think
he did. So we're reading The Catalyst, How to Change Anyone's Mind by Jonah Berger. Berger.
He has another book that's like this too. It's called Contagious.
Wig.
Nice. So
your first impressions.
I liked it a lot.
You liked
bro,
it a lot.
I really like this shit.
Why?
Still.
Yeah, why?
Because it's helping me to understand how to be like a catalyst towards other people and know where other people were catalysts to my change. I feel like you guys were a huge catalyst to my change. You know,
Likewise.
just what we're doing, you know? So it's just interesting to learn about this stuff. And then I've been aiming to do this like to my little brother. And it's interesting reading about this stuff because I'm drawing a lot of conclusions to, and we'll get into it, but like reactance and how I see it in my little brother. Because he's been like that since he was a baby. Just as soon as you tell him not to do something, he's like, I could see it in his like eyes. He's like, I want to do it so bad.
gotta do it.
Yeah.
I don't need it.
And control. Like, it's very interesting.
Yeah. Why'd you like it?
For me, I just think one of my strong suits I have in life is to be able to communicate with others and to have a pretty genuine connection off the bat. And while reading this, I was thinking this would be a good tool for me to use while teaching these young kids. If I'm trying to guide them, if you tell them one thing, he's saying just naturally, especially at that age, they want to do the opposite. So I'm thinking like I can be almost a shepherd and guide them. I can give you options and let them make the right decision because they know what the right decision is. Almost we all do.
Yeah.
But he's teaching me that just like in 7 Habits, prescribing doesn't always work. But when you give someone the option to make the right decision, more likely than not, they want to make the right decision.
Yeah.
Right.
But if you tell them, it happens to me. If you tell me what to do, I just want to spite you.
Yeah.
I don't want to do it because I want it to be my own. So even taking this job, my whole family, like a phone book, was calling me. Like we are trying to reach you about your car's warranty. That's my family calling me, just blowing me up about why I should take this job because they're smarter than me and they have more experience than me. And I was like, I'd spite. I want to say no. I don't want to take this job. Fuck you guys. Because like it's my decision. Yeah. But you know, at the end of the day, I did. So that's why I like the book. I like the human connection.
Cool. How about you, Dad?
Yeah, definitely. I think I want to empower myself. I just want to be that, I guess you can call it for this book, the catalyst in communication and finances in every aspect of my life. Obviously, I don't want to live to perfection. I don't want to be fucking try to perfect everything because I feel like I won't get anything done. But the more I read stuff like this, the more I take notes on stuff like this, and the more I'm aware of how these people at top corporate levels or people that are the best entrepreneurs or the best authors, what they did and what they read and how they moved through life. I think if I follow that path, if I read books like this, then it's only going to set me up for success. So all of this, that's why I like this part. He said, there's a sentence, he says change. Things change at a glacial pace if they change at all. In the tale of the tortoise and the hare, changes 3-toed sloth on his lunch break. So it's like change doesn't happen for years on end. Like you can do the same thing over and over again and something will just click one day and change will just start happening. So I think reading is kind of a big part of my life too. So
Yeah.
Well, what about you, Jay?
My first impression is I really enjoy it. It was really interesting. I believe I've experienced, as I think we all have, some sort of reactance or that what I think was really impressive that he put on was the Persuasion Radar. So like there's a person that I go to school with that like their Persuasion Radar is like on 100 at all times, like Israel. You know what I'm saying? They got the bomb deflectors, right? So having, you know, it's almost like coming back to the opposite side of what Jordan B. Peterson said, like assume the person you're talking to might know something that you might not.
Yeah.
Right. And so the person with the Persuasion Radar that's really high up there just doesn't seem to think anybody else knows anything they might not in that subject, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see it from the other side. I think it's gonna be a really interesting book. The first chapter had my attention. My dad was actually kind of a little mad at me because I was like reading on the way over there. He's trying to have a conversation. I'm like, look, man, I'm kind of like balls deep in this book right now, and like I just need to read this right now, you know. And so I'm really into it. It's pretty cool. I'm excited to see where it goes.
Nice.
Definitely.
Nice.
One thing I'd like to add, just how Nice Bike, how if you implement it naturally, I think it's helped me so much, propelled me with my human to human connection. I think if we take this just with a grain of salt the same way and just implement it naturally and how we interact with people, like for example, when you were showing us the media producers, I don't know if you got it from the book or you just did it naturally, but you gave us 2 choices. And I just felt better just because like, hey, what, you know, whatever. Yeah. And I didn't even care which one you chose, dude. But the fact that you gave us 2 choices, it wasn't like, oh, this is the one, you know? You're like, we read it, checked it over, and I read it and I was like, I don't give a fuck, whatever you want to do today. But the fact that you gave me 2, I felt better about it, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't know if you did it because of the book or not, or just because that's how you would operate. But
Nah, it was actually because of the conversation we had. I was like, what did I say? I was like, oh yeah, we got this hike, or we got this hike, or we got this hike, and you're like, look, bro, you give somebody 2 options. You can give them 3, but really the third one's shit. You make sure to give them 2 options and make me feel better. And I was like, all right. So I went through all that whole list. And I was
so
like,
funny.
all right, I'm choosing these 2.
you taught me that. My little brother taught me that. He's like, humans can't have more than like 5 options, or it's overwhelming.
Yeah.
They need 2 to 3, and 3 is almost too much.
Yeah. So that's what I started doing. And that's providing a menu.
Yeah. Way to circle back to that. Yeah, totally.
Definitely. All right, you guys want to jump into it?
Yeah.
for
Do you guys
sure.
want to go through the introduction or just jumping straight into the chapter?
I did not read the intro.
Okay. Yeah, because the intro is just like
Not that
kinda,
important.
Yeah, it's not that important. It just kind of overviews. the book.
I will say it does explain what a catalyst is, though. Like, did you guys? And I'm gonna say this too, because one time John called me out. He was like, I was like, yeah, when I read, I low key like skim. You know what I mean? I'm doing my thing, and then he was like, nah, fuck that. You need to read.
Yeah.
Like, read this shit. So I feel like everybody should start reading the introduction. If we get the book, fucking just read it.
Okay, I'll read it. I'll read it in the next 2 days.
Yeah. But what did you guys think about the definition of a catalyst versus like and how it related to things on the subatomic level? Like, or
We're
not
talking about
subatomic,
chemistry?
but not subatomic, but it was chemistry, right? Because
Right, a catalyst is an enzyme that makes the reaction faster.
So it doesn't require as much.
Activation energy.
Yeah, it takes
Okay.
less energy to move something
Yeah.
than it. I think it's very interesting because we always look for how much more work can we do? How much more can we do? Because we think of more as being faster. Like the more I do this or the more things that I put on, the greater I'm going to become.
Where does this say catalyst? The definition, David?
I have it on page 7. I don't know. It says instead it's about being a catalyst, changing minds by removing roadblocks and lowering the barriers that keep people from taking action.
Okay.
I think it's very interesting because it's almost like the reverse. You're not looking to add more. You're looking to remove stuff from your life to become more effective.
Yeah.
Instead of being like, how can I add more? Like I need to be working harder and be. It's almost like the phrase "work smarter, not harder."
Right.
Yeah.
Like there's no reason to be busting your ass if you have a smarter way to be producing anything in life. So that's how I looked at being a catalyst. Is just work smarter, not harder. Like.
I think for myself, looking at like the catalyst is something you introduce to a chemical reaction that's already going on
To make it change.
to make it quicker, right? So you don't have to add pressure or temperature. You add an enzyme, the reaction takes on a faster speed. So I'm thinking of it like if you're a catalyst being introduced to another situation, that might be helping change in your family. You know, being a catalyst for that. Okay, well then these are what I need to do and make it easier on the people that I'm trying to help change, help guide them into an easier way. So I would, you know, you went the like personal route, work smarter, not harder. I think the way I'm kind of picturing it is being a catalyst for another person's situation, like outside of self.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this really hits home for me because my personal mission statement, and I wrote it down when we did the 7 habits, was to empower others around me. And that stems from wanting to see people change for the better, because I feel like I can be a catalyst to people.
Definitely.
You know? So everything in the book, I love it so far.
Right. I mean, I even think about this past weekend. My dad doesn't want to hike. My dad doesn't want to do anything nature-wise. And, like, he's been seeing what we've been doing, what I've been doing in my undergraduate career. And he's like, oh, let's go to the Eastern Sierra. I'm like, say less. Because, like, all the geology out there was just ridiculous.
Nice.
We went hunting rocks, bro. Basically, I was like, we're going hunting. Like, this is what we're doing, you know?
Guys, duck calls, rock call.
It's a rock call.
I want to say something in the introduction. I have a question for everybody.
Okay.
So he highlights on page 8. He says, "Great hostage negotiators don't push harder or up the heat in an already tense situation.
Yeah.
Instead, they identify what's preventing change from happening and remove that barrier, allowing change to happen with less energy, not more, just like a catalyst." So I wrote down a question. Is there a time that you feel like you've been a catalyst to someone's change? Maybe I know we all have been a catalyst to our change here, but to someone else's change. And maybe remove some barriers that someone had built up. Or got them to remove their own barriers.
Being a catalyst to somebody else's change?
I'll just say I can say
You
for
can
my
keep it
brother.
brief too if you want, yeah.
Like my brother, like I'm trying to show him like life isn't as complicated as he's making it seem, because he has like a lot of he gets anxious really fast. You know what I mean? Like, you know how he talks. Like he doesn't really talk. He doesn't look you in your eye when you talk. He talks with his head down, and obviously it's his disability, but also I think he's overwhelmed because if he may feel like he's been out of life for so long, and I want to show him like life is only as hard as you make it. You know what I mean? Like you stopping yourself because maybe you have these roadblocks in your mind, or maybe your limiting beliefs may be slowing you down. But life it's as easy or as hard as you make it, right? And I'm trying to show him like the driving test, getting your license, moving forward isn't as hard as you may think it is. You're kind of creating that all in your head. Obviously, life's going to be hard. Like if you're trying to start a business, that's way harder than trying to fucking get your license. You know what I mean? Like it's not the same. But just to get by, like a simple mediocre or even just a simple life, like I just want to get by and have a good existence. It's not that hard. I think we just create this. We live too much in the future instead of in the present moment.
You're continuously like trying to be a catalyst to your brother's change?
By removing like limiting beliefs that he has of himself.
Okay.
Like,
What do you guys say the word removing stuff or catalyst? Just in my head, I think of water that's been blocked up in a creek, like whether it's like a little dam that otters have make, and if you just pull it up, the stream goes like it's supposed to go, nice and strong. You know, it's just been blocked. That's just my mental picture in my head.
That reminds me of Avatar: The Last Airbender, where he goes back to the air temple to meet the guru, and he has him open up all his chakras, and the stream goes.
Yeah. That's exactly the example. He flips it up. He goes, "See, yeah, exactly."
Oh my God, I love that show. For myself, an example of myself being a catalyst, I kind of result back to Reedley College when I was a tutor. And so I would tutor in the math center and I tutor in the learning center. But I remember really helping people through tutoring them in math. And the problem, when they came in, a lot of the tutors were like, okay, well, this is how you do it. You know, and like figure it out. For me, when a person came to me, I would go like step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. If you're having a problem with step 1, okay, well, let's figure out what we need to do that, right? Okay, so your problem's in step 1 and 2, in between there. I identified it. This is the problem. This is how you fix it. This is your roadblock, and this is how you get around it. So for myself, when thinking of catalysts, that was what came up to me, and I could think of this one person named Kim, and she came in, and it was like a simple binomial, expansion, and so it was like, okay, well, I'm having a problem with this. So between step 1 and step 2, you have a problem. Identify the roadblock. This is how you fix it. Does that make sense to you now? Okay, well, let's move forward. That for tutoring was definitely where I could notice that in myself.
Dope. How about you, John?
For me, the quickest thing I can think of is just I've had a friend and my mom really back home. I think just them watching me get into fitness and being like, it's not that hard, man. You know, just get in there and then it'll do itself. Now my buddy, he goes gym every day and we track each other on the watch because he likes I keep him accountable, you know, and he like sees me close my ring, he's like, oh fuck, John's at it again. So I think just me doing the gym was a catalyst to them being like, hey, it's not that hard to be healthy, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So.
Nice.
How about you, Dave?
Catalyst to someone's change. First thing that came to my mind is my little brother, and how he deals with my mom or our mom, because of the way that she's very argumentative, very reactive, and you know we've talked about her in a lot of episodes beforehand, but just seeing a lot of the way that he reacts, you know, and the way he deals with things, I sort of identify, or I try my best to help him identify the barriers that are stopping him from communicating properly with my mom, knowing that she is the way she is, and we're probably not going to be able to change that.
Tiger don't change the stripes.
Mm-hmm. So getting him to see that, and then removing barriers from school too, because I think he was very he just didn't want it. He doesn't care about school really, you know, but I'm trying to tell him, you know, like, gotta make sure you do it. Like, just do it. You don't have an option, you know, but I think I've applied maybe some of these things without knowing it, like, to my little brother, like giving him some options, like, hey, like, you don't have to get an A to pass, but you can get, like, maybe a C or a B, somewhere in between there. Those are your options. Like, as long as you pass, this is good. So sparking that change within the way he thinks at a young age, I feel like that set him up for success.
Nice.
He got his iPhone back because he got his grades up, so
nice.
it's pretty sick.
Go text his girl now.
Well, he's got a girlfriend now.
Should we coming over?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why your dad said that she's come over like twice or 3 times now.
Mm-hmm.
Danger zone.
Yeah. We'll talk about that too. This is exactly what I'm thinking about. I'm like, I don't want to be the. Yeah.
We can get into that. Me and David had a conversation about that, and
Yeah.
we can get into it later.
All right. So moving on. Where do you guys want to start?
Let's just start from
one.
Yeah, the beginning.
All right.
In the beginning.
There was Reactance.
In the beginning.
So he talks about cigarette smoking.
Yeah.
When warnings become recommendations. The big part I took from Reactance is majority of people want to have control of their options and what they choose in life. Most of the time, if you tell someone not to do something, they're most likely going to go behind your back, or they're going to be curious and do it, whether you tell them to do it or not. Like there's a sentence in there that says, warning people about health risk has been a standard approach for decades. Eat less fat, don't drink and drive, wear your seatbelt, pick any health concern, add it admonishment to it, and if it's good, or not to do it if it's bad. You've basically captured the essence of public health messaging for the last 50 years. Think about just those 3 things: eat less fat, don't drink and drive, wear your seatbelt. Obviously, the majority of people wear their seatbelt because it's like, I'm not trying to fucking die. Like I see people fly out of the front, But drinking and driving and eating less fat, people love eating food. They don't care if it's healthy for them. Like you can go on Instagram and just look at like crazy foods and look at the comment section. People understand that it's unhealthy to eat that shit.
Yeah.
And then drinking and driving. People understand people die horrific and kill other people, and people still do it. I'm 5 minutes down the street, or you know what I mean? Like, and it's, people will still do it, but understanding the consequence if you get a DUI, then that will really change. Like, oh fuck, it happened to me. Now that I see, like, some people wait until it actually, like, the consequence to happen in their life to become real.
Right.
So that's sometimes how I see shit too. Like, I'll push it until like it happens to me.
Something.
Like, oh, that shit will never happen to me. Like, and then it happens. I'm like, fuck, now it's real. It's not just some imaginative thing that's in my head. Like. So yeah, that's a big part that I took out of this chapter.
Definitely. My first quote I bring up is on page 20.
Okay.
The need for freedom and autonomy.
Okay.
So right above the need for freedom and autonomy, I put In these similar examples, warnings become recommendations, just as telling a teenager not to date someone somehow makes that person more alluring. Telling people not to do something has the opposite effect. It makes them more likely to do it. And so the question I have for that is, do you guys have examples from your life where that resembles this trend or behavior?
Oh my God.
Friends, like childhood friends. My mom telling me not to hang out. They're not good for you. Not, obviously, being naive and not understanding that.
Yeah.
Just hanging out with just shit people, bad people, gang stuff, like people that graffitied, like just stuff like that. I thought it was cool as a kid, and that's good. That's interesting, but I've heard that my whole life. Like, don't do that because of this, and then I go and explore what the fuck they mean, and I'm like, it's not that bad.
Right.
And what are they talking about?
Right.
And until I get caught up with something, I'm like, fuck. It sucks.
Yeah. I can think of one of my own life. I started dating this female leaving high school the summer going into college. And everybody around me was like, don't date before going to college, and don't go to college with a girlfriend. It's like bringing sand to the beach.
Yeah.
And so I remember hearing that from like multiple people and be like, I kind of need to experience this on my own. And it did come back and bite me in the ass. And then that took me a second to be like, okay. And then I think I came across, it was like an Albert Einstein quote where it was like, a wise man learns things through his own experiences while, a fool learns something through his own experience while a wise man learns by watching others.
Yeah, that's it. I love that quote.
Yeah. And so I was like, I had all these people telling me not to do it, but it was like that same exact thing. It was a reactance / persuasion radar thing going off where I was like, yeah, nah, you guys are saying to do it. I'm going to do the opposite.
I often think I walk the path of a fool because there's so much information in front of me, and I still choose I want to experience it myself.
Yeah.
And that quote rings in my head all the time. I go, a wise man learns from history.
Yeah.
A fool learns to experience it. I can't help myself.
That's interesting because it leads into their freedom and autonomy, why people make the decisions for themselves. They don't care if you might have known
And I do. The fact that rings in my head, that quote, and I still do that.
Yeah,
I cannot help it.
It is great. That's interesting.
We've all heard though that experience is the best teacher.
Yeah. It is.
It definitely is. Forget it.
It does teach you some things, but I do agree. The wise man does watch others.
Right.
Yeah. But I kind of feel you, John, because when people, I get it. And you're the first person that came to my mind when I was reading this. I was like, John, I don't think John likes when people tell him what to do. He's just like, no, I'm not gonna do that. I can just hear your voice like, I'm not gonna do that.
I don't like when people tell me to do it, even though they may be right. I want to come to the conclusion on my own.
Yeah. What was I gonna say? I thought it was really funny the Tide Pod challenge example.
Okay, yeah. I'm glad you brought that up.
I remember.
I wanted the listeners to hear. So they're referencing the pod challenge.
The Tide
Don't
Pod.
eat Tide Pods.
And I think it's funny how they do this
That's
big.
probably gonna make Tide Pods.
They do this big thing to get Gronk to make this commercial about don't eat Tide Pods. No.
I remember that.
And then literally it's Tide Pod stock goes up. Everyone.
Deaths from Tide Pods skyrocket.
Yeah, I remember that. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, what's wrong with people?
Bro, what the fuck are you eating chemicals for?
Facts.
They
shit
do
makes
look.
no
They
sense.
do be looking good.
David was one of those kids.
He's like, immediately.
Tide Pods survivor.
I think I need to go to the ER.
Right. All right. So the need for freedom and autonomy. I had just something worth mentioning here. They run an experiment in a old folks home.
Okay, yeah.
Oh
right?
yeah, this
Where
is a good
they
one.
provide one group. Okay, you can choose how to organize your room. You could choose if you want a house plant. Okay, what kind of house plant do you want? You're free to roam whenever you want, right? Versus another group B, which was like, okay, we organize your room, you get a house plant, this is what it is, and the nurses will take care of it. You leave on this schedule that we made you. And so they ended up measuring and studying both of these groups,
And
Group A and Group B.
Both groups pretty much had the same exact thing.
Exactly.
Just the first group thought that they were choosing to lay out the room like that. The second group had the same room layout. Just
Right, it just wasn't, they didn't get to choose it.
letting them
Right.
know that.
Definitely. And so after some time passed, and this is on page 21, researchers followed up to see how the residents were doing and whether the reminders had any effect. The results were striking. Residents who had been given more control were more cheerful, active, and alert. ellipses down to the bottom there. But even more astonishing were the long-term effects. 18 months later, the researchers examined mortality rates across the two groups. On the floor that had been given more freedom and control, less than half as many residents had died. Feeling that they had more autonomy seemed to make people live longer. And so my little quote that I wrote down here was, maximizing the amount of freedom, control, and autonomy leads to more cheerful, active, alert, and longer lives. So where in our life, so where in our life can we exercise more choice?
So for me, I feel like I have unlimited choice almost.
Okay.
To like I get to do whatever I want pretty much. My job has a lot of flexibility. I just feel like I get to pick whatever I want and I feel happier. I remember living at home, it didn't feel the same way. Even though I might have had the same choice, it's like sharing this space with my family felt like I had less. But now, if I want to wake up, like this morning, I woke up, went to dog park at 6:30 because I wanted to, you know? Didn't have to, but made me happy. I had the choice to. Even if I had the responsibility, I wanted to do it, you know? I had the choice to go to the gym when I wanted to. We kind of made our own decision as a group to do this meeting now. I feel like I have plenty of autonomy, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's how I see work as well, because I'm a full-time DoorDasher, and it's like I value my time and freedom rather than working for someone else for a higher wage. Or I value being able to be like, oh, you guys want to go camping? I'm going with you guys. Like, I don't have to ask nobody. I don't have to be like, hey, can I request off? Like, can I take time off?
That's true.
Even like waking up in the morning. We have the choice to wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning, but when you're waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning to a job or school that you don't like, is that your choice? Do you feel like waking up in the morning? You know what I mean? So I think that's where some people kind of live like, what's his I just listened to Joe Rogan. He talked about the lives of desperation, where people get caught up in like responsibility and like bills and wife and all. Like, you just get older and you want things, and maybe you want a companion, or maybe you want a nicer car, and then later on you have the nicer car, then you can't do less shit because you have to work more. Maybe your lifestyle is inflating because your income's increasing, and some people just never find that how to live below their means. And so I think obviously the choice is a very important part, but you have to be able to control that choice.
And then I think the part, you know, having a partner, you know, I don't have to run anything by anybody, you know?
Yeah.
I can just do whatever I want, you know? So I like that freedom too. Even though it's amazing having a partner, don't be wrong, but that puts into the equation. You almost have to run stuff by them, make sure it's cool with them. Yeah. Does your time affect them, vice versa, you know?
Keep them updated.
Definitely.
Nah, bro, figure it out. I do what the fuck I want.
You're my girlfriend?
Nah,
So
you're
I'm
not
gonna
my
disappear
girlfriend.
for the next week. Don't call.
But I don't know. That low key, like, that's like, even thinking about marriage, that shit scares me. Like, losing freedom of choice. Like, think if we're talking about what we just read, the freedom and living longer, you're limiting your choice by adding someone else to legally be tied to you.
Yeah, no.
Like, that seems, I don't know.
Sounds
like
crazy,
that.
bro.
Yeah, it sounds fucking wild, especially the world we live in. I don't know, but
Definitely. How about you, David? Where in your life could you exercise more choice and autonomy?
Could I exercise more choice and autonomy? I
Where
feel
do
like
you
I have.
you could.
I feel like I have a lot too. Like, you know, because of my job is not hourly. I just get shit done. I have to make my own like time to get shit done. You know, I think I have a lot of choice, and it does feel a little bit better versus when I was working at a restaurant and I didn't have a choice really. I had to go to work, and it's crazy. It's weird.
Yeah.
I think I could exercise more choice, like more autonomy, just by waking up earlier. Like that's always been a struggle with me, and I have no problem saying like that. I have trouble sleeping, and I've literally identified that actually identified that because my mind just is on crazy mode sometimes at night. Most of the time. And I think that might be like a side effect of having like the creative mind or whatever. My right brain just like it won't stop. I honestly could say I never get creative block. It just doesn't happen for me. I can always like maximize some idea and turn it in, just keep going and going. But I think I just got to get a good handle on sleeping and making sure I wake up, because it does offer more choice to do things and get stuff done. Like John went to the park at 6:30.
And I still grab breakfast.
Still
for you guys.
grab breakfast. Yeah, he's just awake. I gotta practice that.
Agreed, myself too. It's hard to wake up.
It's all about consistency too. You know, it's like
Yeah.
even go to sleep. I pick a time where no matter what, I just start laying in bed. I go, I'm watching TV. I go, it's time for me to go upstairs. I'm done watching TV. It's time for me to go upstairs. Whether I bullshit on my phone or read or take a shower,
You're at least in
I've
bed.
already transitioned to it's sleep time.
going to be.
You know, it's bedtime.
Yeah. Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, I gotta do something, and that's why I went balled out on this bed, because
Yeah.
the mattress about to hit different, bro.
You spend like a quarter of your life in your mattress.
Dude,
Makes
yeah.
total
I'm
sense.
about to go home, like, go sleep on like a shitty mattress at my parents' house, and I'm like, I've been sleeping on this purple. I'm about to drop stacks, dude. I'm like spoiled.
That's yours? Isn't that your purple?
Nah, it's my aunt's.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Alright.
She just let me choose like the level of like
That
what I
shit
want.
really hit different.
Dude, this shit hit different, bro. And the mattress stays cool, bro. Like the fucking purple technology. dude,
That purple tick.
dude, I'm telling you, yo, that shit slap.
Jeez.
It's the holes in it, huh? Let the air get in that beat.
I want to get a purple pillow. Like I didn't ball out for it, but I showed up, dude. The whole get up, it's worth it.
Sponsored by Purple.
Does it come in gold?
Gold?
Yeah.
What do you mean the color?
Yeah.
Purple and gold like Lakers.
Oh,
All right.
you picked it up. I didn't. Jay rolled his eyes at me. I didn't get it.
Moving on.
Well, my answer to that question would be one area I'm deciding to take a little bit more autonomy in is with school. Like, you know, undergraduate career, you're just kind of given a curriculum, achieve it, and kind of like just do our foundational things that you have to get your degree.
Mm-hmm.
And what's really different with the graduate program is now like, okay, you choose a subject that's of interest to you. You need to go and research it, and then you come to us and ask us questions, and then you write a paper on it. So it's all choice at this point.
That's pretty sick.
And so now I'm trying to figure out how to exercise that in my life, and that's why I've been saying, like today I've spent from 11 to 5:30 in the lab with Aurora.
That's so
And
sick.
then Thursday, same thing. It was like 11 to like 6 p.m. And like the Wednesday and Tuesday before that is like I'm just spending all my time in there.
Man's putting in the work.
Yeah, like emailing my professors for extra work, like just so I could be prepared come fall, you know?
Can you make a note to remind me to ask you about what you're thinking? We don't talk about it right now, but what you're thinking, because I was really interested in the battery mining stuff, just because it relates to what I do.
For the readers too, it's pointed out in this book that choice is so important that people prefer it even when it makes them worse off. And I thought that was very interesting because it immediately made me think of my little brother. When he was little, we would tell him, "Don't do this," but it was always a "don't do this." It wasn't a, like, you have these couple things you can do, go do whatever you want. And my mom, you know, and me and my dad, we kind of just were like, because he would always get into some stuff, you know,
Yeah.
playing with tools and hurting himself and doing stuff, and then be like, don't do that. And I think looking back, the reason why he was very adamant about doing those things is because he had no other choice but to do what he was told not to give himself some form of control.
Yeah.
And that's why he is the way he is, kind of, you know.
Yeah.
I don't want to say that's who he's going to be or whatever forever, but I just noticed that I saw that relation, and it's true. I feel like
Normally-
I've done things like that too.
A stricter parent raises a more rebellious, or a better, line's not the word.
They fit in.
They're better at lying because they're trying to keep stuff under the radar, but they're normally more rebellious. Like when I was younger, the girls' parents that were strict were crazy,
Yeah.
yo.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it makes sense. Even like kind of skim through the study right below that. Like he says, there's a study done. They asked people, would you be the parents of this woman named Julie that gave birth to a premature baby? And then they asked, there are two options: stop the treatment, which meant Julie would die, or continue the treatment. And they were divided into two groups. One group was asked to make the choice themselves, or whether to stop the treatment and let Julie die. And some people wouldn't let the doctor choose because they want the choice to, they just want the choice to choose whether we keep her on life support or let her die.
And-
Like it may the doctor may know best, but you're willing to keep the power and control in your hands. It may make it worse for you.
And I think he continues that with that even the people who chose to take her off life support felt worse about the decision. They would still have rather made the decision.
Yeah.
So
They would still make that decision just because they had the choice.
I feel the same way. I want it in my control, even if that's the outcome. Just like what you guys said, I hate when people tell me this is what I should do. You know, I want to come to that decision on my own.
I wanted to say this too because I think
Okay.
John, you know the part where it says the forbidden fruit tastes ever more sweet. It tastes sweeter because eating it is a way to reclaim one's autonomy. How much forbidden fruit you be eating, John?
No, I do have a part right here. I know we're picking on John a little bit, but I put IID John. I put their ability to see their actions as driven by themselves, so they push back. Who are you to tell me I can't text while I drive or walk my dog on that pristine patch of grass? I can do whatever I want.
John, wake up and
Yosemite.
make a forbidden fruit smoothie, bro.
It's fucking nature. What are we talking about right now? Bear shit too. What, are we gonna go pick that up?
Wait, what happened?
This fucking guy, the park ranger came up to us because Ace was in the field. He was like, he literally like pulled up stock and got out of the truck.
Ran
and was
up to
like,
that.
he can't be on the field. And John was like, what the fuck?
We're in nature, bro. What the fuck are we talking about?
This is a park. I get on my dog here. What's the point?
There's gonna be shit in there. It's like bear shit there too. Like, we gonna pick that up?
Like, this is the earth, bro.
What's funny is Ace took a blown out. It's like a guy.
I asked John, I was like, I did Ace take a shit out there? He's like, yeah, Ace shit out in the field.
So right after that, the book identifies what reactance is. Restriction generates a psychological phenomenon called reactance, an unpleasant state that occurs when people feel their freedom is lost or threatened.
What's the page?
23, the bottom.
Okay.
So I get that's like the definition.
Of reactance.
Yep. I also wrote this down too for my little brother. On the bottom, do you guys read the little like notes at the bottom?
I do.
Sometimes.
I do.
It said doing anything other than what was requested provides some sense of freedom, but doing the opposite is often most effective. I think he has the capacity to learn a lot, just because I remember distinctly I didn't probe him with questions, but I did highlight a gap with him because he kept turning in his work late or something, or he kept doing this one thing and his grades weren't progressing. And I was like, I just asked him like very simple questions like, Dan, you want to pass school, right? And he was like, yeah. And he was like, well, I was like, you failed this first class. So I was like, you have to retake this class. It doesn't go away. So I was like, do you want to retake it another time? And he was like, well, no. I was like, okay, well, do you think turning in your homework late and repeating this pattern is going to get you there? And he was like, well, I'll just do it, you know? And he did it. Like, I think I made it very clear to him.
Yeah, he found that. He's like, oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
He's like,
come to my own conclusion.
He's like, I was like, even if you don't get your iPhone back, because I know that's why, I was like, you know, that's more of an something to incite him to get his grades up. I was like, even if you don't though, I was like, these classes don't go away, so you're gonna be back. And I was like, I brought up the girlfriend thing too, and I don't think he liked that. That's why he wanted to prove me wrong, because I was like, your girlfriend's at a higher level than you. Like, you're gonna keep her around, like, you're gonna be like flunking all your classes, bro, and she's gonna be like. And he was like, no. And then,
So yeah, see, I think that's a perfect way of doing it. Just talking, trying to figure out. But that's hard though, because
Forget what mom says. This is what I'm saying. You know.
Another side note too. This is a good example of what I learned in. I took women's studies. I really think it was very, very important class, or just it got me to think a lot. And he talked about this example of comprehensive sex education, Because when we went, did you guys have sex education where they just tried to scare you? They were just like,
This is a blue waffle. Whoa.
This is genital herpes.
I don't know. I remember just watching the movie, like
oh,
of
a
the
girl having birth. And
I just remember that.
I never seen that.
They're very the way schools do it is they cast like sex as this like dark thing with like it's all mysterious and it's like, hey guys, we're gonna like it's towards the end of the year,
It's like
you know,
grade.
all the boys go over here, all the girls go over here. Okay, guys, we're gonna talk about this. Like it's like you're like, what the fuck? What are we gonna do?
I remember it feeling like that.
The feeling was like, this is just we shouldn't be doing this, but like at the same time, all the kids thought it was super funny, and I thought like when I had this like old guy teaching us about like sex positions or something, it was really weird. He was like, all right, guys, we're going to talk about anal sex, and I fucking lost it.
Okay, and I remember my mom having a problem with that. She was like, why would they bring up anal sex? You guys wouldn't even think about that. But now they're like, oh, we can also put it in the butt? Like, that's crazy. I'm like, who would have thought?
So comprehensive sex education is something that a lot of people are trying to push for because it's like you said, you provide them with options, and it's not a hard abstinence, like a hard no. Because kids are just gonna want to do that shit anyways, and more pregnancies occur. Kids are stupid, don't use condoms or whatever because they were never taught really how to use it or like consent is a big one, you know. So
consent's pretty common sense. I think that's just crazy.
Dude, no. Fresno State
no,
mandatory. You have to take a consensual class.
It's pretty bad.
I thought what you thought. I was at Fresno State at Dog Days, and there's this one like kid behind me. This like not even a kid, just a fucking young adult, and we were in the sex consent thing,
The whole like fucking seminar.
in the thing, the seminar, and this guy the speaker was like, so guys, let me ask you this: if a girl is, how do you know a girl is into you and wants to have sex with you? And it was quiet because like everybody was just being kind of awkward, but the guy behind me said, you just go up to her, or he like raised his hand. He's like, you go up to her and grab her a little and like just rub her back a little bit, and then everybody was like, weird vibes. I shit you not.
Creepy vibes.
Some guy like shouted from the back. He's like, sir, that's not consent.
I'm dead.
Okay. But someone like that, they don't know normal social cues either.
Right.
You know when we're all talking and like you kind of can feel that maybe it's time for me to leave. I'll overstay their welcome. That's that guy who's like, so what's up? When are we grabbing dinner?
On page 30, there's a quote I highlighted here. I just wanted to bring it up because it kind of wraps up what the overall topic was of the chapter. And so it's right before provide a menu.
Yes.
Sir.
And so it says, to reduce reactance, catalysts allow for agency, not by telling people what to do or by being completely hands-off, but by finding the middle ground, by guiding their path. 4 key ways to do that are: 1, provide a menu; 2, ask, do not tell; 3, highlight a gap; and 4, start with understanding.
Yeah.
And so the rest of the chapter proceeds with these 4 alternative actions. I wouldn't say to persuade, but to help people along their changing journey.
Yeah. It's interesting because I feel like from 7 Habits to even Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules of Life, I feel like start with understanding has always been first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is the first book where it starts with something else, providing a menu.
Right.
And that's choice, because he references choice is by far the most important thing that someone can have. And
Right.
having the choice to feel important it is damn near important than anything else.
I think it almost goes to the fact that it can even be like in a workplace type of thing, and you don't necessarily have to understand where they're coming from, but you're just trying to make work a little bit enjoyable for everybody. So you can be like, here's the 3 choices. I really don't have to know why you're picking this, but as long as you pick something, I'm happy with it, you know?
I think all 4 of these options we've done continuously. Think about our content ideas.
Yeah.
We provide a menu like, okay, so what do we want to do? This is the things that we want to do. Then we ask, don't tell. We're like, okay, Jason, what do you want to do? John, what do you want to do? And then we highlight the gap. How do we merge all of this stuff to where it fits what everybody wants to do?
You know what? If you remember when you made the first concept, do you remember how I was upset with you? Because you only made 1.
yeah.
And I was like, well, I want more than 1. I was like, even if the first one's the best one, I was like, you gotta at least give me 3. Like, you know, because I was upset
Yeah.
that you only gave me one thing. This is before we even read this.
Yeah.
I feel like I had no choice. I was like, oh, this is what David thinks, right? Where's my input? Where's my input?
True.
So that's interesting.
And we
yeah.
still picked the first one.
Yeah, and we'll talk about it later, but all right. So, do you guys want to discuss each of these alternative actions in depth?
You can just go through and highlight what you feel is important. Like,
Yeah.
I thought the provide a menu one, I wrote down Bitwise it does this.
Okay.
Letting potential hires choose which dimension is more important makes them feel like they have more of an active role in the process and hopefully satisfies their need to negotiate. I feel like Bitwise in a way does that because they almost like say, well, what do you think you want to do? And they're more adamant about doing that as long as the menu is pertaining to Bitwise. You want to be this for Bitwise? Okay, we'll give you the position to do that. We'll provide you that platform. And most of the time, people are very good at what they do there because that's what they signed up for because they wanted to do that.
Yeah.
So I think that was pretty interesting. I was like, oh, wow.
For me, this whole chapter, I thought the menu thing was the most relatable tool to use naturally when interacting with people, just in general. Because, as we brought up multiple times, for my own personal self, that's where I find the most fulfillment and moving forward with something. As long as I have like some sort of choice, we could do what you guys want to do in the beginning, but I feel like I had a choice.
yeah, I feel like every single person on this planet wants to feel a sense of importance, whether it's a simple choice, whether it's a hierarchy of status, where if it's a better car than somebody else. I think everybody wants importance, and we all get that from we all get that driving factor from somewhere in our life. But I think majority of people get it from having choices in life, right? Like if you could wake up at 12 a.m. to go to work rather than 6 a.m., now you have a choice.
Yeah.
Rather than just be like, nope, you got to be up at 6 o'clock. We're going to be working. Not too bad.
Yeah, it's like saying you can work night shift or morning shift.
Yeah, and
You know,
people
like-
have a choice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
So I just wanted to define providing a menu. So on page 31, it says, if providing a menu, a limited set of options from which people can choose. And what he kind of goes further into deciding too is like, I think he says when you ask your girl to go out to eat, I think he brings that up. He's
yeah,
like,
he does.
she, you provide her with one choice, like, okay, well, Mexican sounds good. She's gonna break that down and be like, that's a bad
Reject
idea.
it.
But if you're like, okay, I'm feeling Mexican or seafood, then she can choose from those options. Either you're okay with.
Yeah.
So like the ultimate move, I think, would be like, okay, this is what I want to do. I'm gonna bring it up to my person, whoever I'm having this discussion with. But these are the three options I'm totally okay with. So here's the three options, you choose, right? Or here's two options, you choose. Don't let them know you're totally okay with any of them, because then there might be lean some certain way. Just be like, look, I'm okay with all these under the surface. Choose one.
That's why I've been reading this book and I keep thinking of a shepherd, whether it's a dog or someone that helps guide the pack.
Yeah.
And the shepherd still gets the pack to do whatever he wants, but he's just laying out options to help steer them,
Right.
It's like all multiple choice, but all choices lead to what he wants.
Right.
Right. What was it? Was it in Jordan Peterson where he talks about too much freedom can actually be harmful for us?
Yeah,
Is that
yeah,
what
yeah.
And I think
It is harmful.
I do appreciate this book a lot, but I always think about that every time I hear about all these choices. And he even mentions like you shouldn't give smart agencies share multiple directions, not 10 or 15, but 2 or 3. But even then, like, what if 2 or 3 is too many? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what if giving too many giving choices to everything in life is too much? Like, sometimes there has to be like just a solid direction, and you have to adapt to be in that direction.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're not gonna give a menu to everything.
Yeah.
Or you gotta know when to just be like, this is what we're doing,
Yeah.
and be a leader, or know when doing it this way is better for you and better for the group.
Right.
Yeah, because even like back to the reference that Jay was saying when the boyfriend girlfriend, obviously it could be vice versa, it doesn't matter. But in this, the example was the boyfriend and girlfriend. He gives her the menu, gives her the choices, but then he says, and suddenly she stopped arguing. She never liked both options he suggested, and she still come up with some reason why one person was less than ideal, but at least she picked one. So even that shows you that choice is like, it's important to have a choice, but you gotta fucking pick one.
Right.
You know,
You have to follow the guy. You have to follow the direction.
you made me think of Too Much Freedom. We had this bar. We called it, for a certain period of time, we just started calling it the No Rules Bar. I think I was telling you about this earlier. And you could just walk in the back and you could bring in your own beer and stuff. We like found out kind of low key, and then I was like, oh, you can just bring your own beer? Let's just fucking bring your own beer in here. And then we just like, this is the No Rules Bar. You can stand up on the tables, you can do whatever you want.
And then it wasn't a bar anymore.
And then all of a sudden, I'm looking around and there's like 16-year-olds at the bar. And it's when you give people too much freedom, they just want to keep taking. And then the bar got shut down. They gave us too much freedom, you know?
Yeah.
But if we could have just maybe had a little bit of guidelines, we could have kept this great thing going.
Right.
But
That's hard though, because what if obviously you can.
no, you can't. Well, once you open the floodgates, it was just chaos. You walk in, there's
it's
no order.
Impossible to keep that going.
Right. So on page 32, it's still on the provide a menu. Back on the idea of, okay, you and your girl are trying to figure out what to eat for dinner, and you provide her with one option. And so it says here, try to convince people to do something, and they spend a lot of of their time counter arguing, thinking about the various reasons why it's a bad idea or why something else would be better, why they don't want to do what was suggested. But giving people multiple options, and suddenly things shift. Rather than thinking about what is wrong with whatever was suggested, they think about which one is better. Rather than poking holes in whatever was raised, they think about which option is best for them. And because they've been participating, they're much more likely to go with one of them in the end.
Sure.
And so, like, you give person the choice, they're going to be happier than if they were just, this is what we're eating. They didn't have any choice in the matter. So, next time your girl asks you to eat what do you want to eat for dinner, just give her two choices and eat both of them you like anyway. You don't have to deal with the, oh my God.
No, that's just,
God, I can't stand that.
Oh man, that shit, bro.
All right, so we're getting Carl Jr. Wow. All right, so we're getting
that.
so.
We're in fucking Taco Bell. I don't
Do you have any other notes or statements that you guys liked from that subsection?
No, we can go past the
Yeah.
menu. I think that's enough.
past the whole menu. I had one thing. Sorry.
Okay.
On the menu?
Sure.
Yeah. So. Oh, what's the next?
It's ask, don't tell.
Okay. So here's my thing. I was reading this and I wanted to highlight what you guys thought about asking questions, because in the example that he uses on page 37, questions encourage the listeners to commit to the conclusion, which I absolutely agree. Isn't that the same thing as probing, though? Like probing questions? Or is there like a certain balance that you guys think? Because in the example, he was using very...
Using a professor to students?
Yeah, like the questions were...
He's like,
well, how do you become a successful salesman?
he's like, put a stake in the ground.
Yeah, well, how do you do...
Consciously admit that junk. Okay.
It's, to me, I felt like he was maybe probing a little bit.
What page are you on? 37?
37. Well, if you do this, well, then how will you do that? Or will do this, will they do that?
He gives it. I don't know if this answers your question on that. Is it probing when you're asking questions? But he states questions do a couple things. First, like providing a menu, questions shift the listener's role. Rather than counter-arguing or thinking about all the reasons they disagree with the statement, listeners are occupied with a different task, figuring out an answer to the question, how they feel about it, or their opinion. Something most people are more than happy to do. Meaning, like, if I ask you a question, I'm trying to figure out where you stand on it. Because majority of the time, people like talking about what they believe and what they like. If it was probing, that would be like, hey, look at this black shirt. I got this black shirt. It's super sick. Do you have a black shirt? I'm almost enticing you to say that you like a black shirt because I like my black shirt.
Well, I'm thinking of probing in a way is like, okay, maybe probing questions, which for the readers, like, there's an idea that was, or concept that we read, which was probing someone with questions isn't necessarily an effective way to get them to, how would you say?
They start feeling attacked because...
Feeling attacked, right? Personally attacked. Maybe probing, the definition between constructive questions and probing questions is that the probing questions, usually someone already knows that they have an intent to reply. If I'm asking you a question, I'm just probing you so that way I can set you up and tell you what I think is...
Or you're trying to get the answer you want.
I think what Devin read earlier is a good example of what he's trying to do. And I think what you're asking is, I think it's probing. It is. But you have to know the situation. I'm thinking, for example, if I would have used that tactic against my ex, she would have felt very overwhelmed because probing was like kind of productive with her. So maybe you wouldn't use that tactic with that person. The ask don't tell thing doesn't work for them. You use one of the other 4 tactics. Menu. What are the other ones?
Write a menu, highlight a gap.
Highlight a gap.
Start
but
with understand.
maybe, for example, you in your situation, maybe the ask don't tell thing, the probing wouldn't work with you and your partner because of just how she is, you know? So maybe like the menu option works better for her, or the highlighted gap thing, because some people.
Oh, I did. Yeah.
So some people probing it flusters them, but some people, like Devin brought up, they're more than happy to
Talk about
Chelsea would be a great example of probing. You start a question, she's more than happy to give you everything in her head, you know? So she wouldn't feel attacked by that.
Yeah.
So maybe, and the menu thing might not work for her because she's got her own menu that she's already thought about.
I don't think
You know?
people necessarily feel attacked. I think it's based on your motives and your intentions. What questions are you asking? Because you did this with your brother, and he was more than willing to tell you, no, I don't want to fail these classes. No, I want this. Do you want your no, I want her to stay. You know what I mean? People are more than willing to tell you what they want. I think it's your intention and like the tone of your voice.
True.
Like, why the fuck do you go outside when it's hot outside? That tone sounds like I'm attacking you. Like that sounds like.
Or like, you want to pass school, don't you? Like, why are you not like?
Yeah, that's not
that
a
doesn't
constructive
sound-
question. That's like
Even then, I'm just thinking about, I know people, if I start asking a bunch of questions like that to lead them to an answer, they start getting flustered because they don't like being put on the spot like that. They have to have time to think and digest their thoughts.
I think his questioning starts with the end in mind first, and then he.
Yeah, because he's trying to lead them into something.
Exactly.
I'm just saying, some people, if you ask them 2 or 3 more questions, they feel flustered because there's like a lot of shit in their brain they gotta like digest and think about.
Good example is that guy at the bar when you said that you met like this guy that was hanging out with you and Carlos or someone that was it, I don't know who it was. You were saying somebody and you asked him like, hey, so what do you do? And he just like was super brief, and you asked him another question and he was just like,
yeah.
Some people just don't want to have conversation. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
to me that is sort of like the probing that you're talking about.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
I think that answered my question pretty well.
I would think intention has a lot to play with that. Like,
Agreed.
if your intention is to understand somebody, and like I think it all kind of balances with what you guys said in terms of like how are they going to react. But if your intention is like I genuinely want to understand, then I don't think it would be taken as probing, right? Because this person, I mean, everybody can talk about themselves, right? But if your intention is like, I'm trying to get this answer out of you, and I'm going to ask questions to get this answer out of you so I can respond, then I think it comes across as probing. But if it's like, and I think you're really good with this, is like asking questions to just spark thought.
You are. You always make me think. Like, make me backtrack on what I just said.
Right. And I remember bringing this up before when we were reading that book about, hey, probing isn't that great. I think it was 7 Habits, right? We're talking about, okay, don't probe, but like try to first seek to understand. And seeking to understand would be asking those questions. So I remember bringing it up like, okay, well, how would you do this without probing? And you were like, well, I think, your questions just have to be kind of genuine. And is this person willing to even share? Probing, I think it all has to do with intention.
Okay.
Yeah.
Definitely. And yeah.
And back to the thing, he's given us a bunch of tools to use, but if someone gives me 4 tools, I don't have to use all 4. Maybe I just need the one,
Okay.
Right.
Nice.
Like for myself, I get home from a camping trip, my mom asks me 100 million questions, and I'm like, look, I just, like, not right now. I know your intention isn't to just be like super over the top, but like right now I just need like a day. Just give me a day and I'll share it all.
Also, my mom will call me and she's blowing me up and I'm like all hungover and I'm stressed out. I got shit going on. I'm like,
Yeah, just give me one day.
I will call you because I like talking to you and I'll
Yeah.
tell you about my whole weekend because I'm excited about it. But just give me a second.
Yeah.
Don't probe me right now.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
I need to breathe mentally,
But it does make sense though too, because like if you make somebody commit to a conclusion, like let's say with your brother, you're like, well, you want to pass class, right? It's not like that's probing. It's like it's a question that should have an answer. Like, yeah, of course I want to pass high school. Okay, well then why are you doing this, and this?
Yeah, that's highlighting.
You know what I mean? That's highlighting the gap.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think highlighting the gap's a good one. It's like almost a continuation of the probing thing,
Yeah, because even but the subsection that you highlighted, like the Nafez, he's asking his students, how much do you guys think you should study? Like, he's doing everything that,
It's a genuine.
You know what I mean? He's trying. Obviously, he has an intention on where he wants the conversation to end.
Right. Yeah.
But he's trying to get a level playing field. He's trying to figure out where everybody sits.
And that scenario is great for that. It's a brand new class they just started, and he's trying to get them to come to the conclusion. So this is what it takes, you know. So
Yeah. I'll share in my experience with highlighting a gap. Somebody I was talking to, I noticed like, okay, words were like, yeah, I want to hang out. Yeah, I want to hang out. Okay, cool. Like, that's cool. And so I'd be like, all right, well, let's hang out. Like Wednesday come around, they'd flake. And then I'd see him again the next time, and I'd be like, all right, you know, I'm gonna let you slide on that one, but how about this time? Let's hang out on Tuesday. Tuesday come, they flake. And I'd be like, all right, so I brought it to her attention. I was like, your actions don't match your behaviors, and behavior shows me your intention. And so she like, you know, she was taken aback at first, didn't really say anything. And then like 2-3 days go by, and she's like, look, oh, I've been messing up, you know? And so like highlighting the gap really did make a change in that person.
it puts it in their face.
Yeah,
They go,
it's like-
oh, it's like a mirror almost.
Yeah, you're like, look, like, this is what you've done. Like, imagine me being like, oh, okay, I'm gonna make you dinner on Tuesday night. Tuesday night comes, you're driving to my house, and I'm like, oh yeah, don't come over, I got shit.
You're already halfway over.
Yeah, you're like, there's a gap here between your actions and your behavior, your actions and your words, right? And that's been a big thing for me over past like 2020. It was like paying attention to what people say and then watching what they do, right? Because then you can see the gap. You know, it's not always your responsibility to bring it that person's attention. It kind of, where is it on your priority list?
I'm a big action guy. Yeah, I feel that.
Actions are number one for me, right? Like if like your actions don't match your words, then we're and it tends not to for a lot of people, right? It's just like, then something's not right there.
You know, just for example, I don't have to say that ACE is very important to me. My actions say it because I make time for them consistently. You know,
right.
This is, you know, think about you.
Definitely. Yeah. So I can see how highlighting a gap it can be super useful.
My parents did that to me
It's a
sometimes.
good
Ace
tool.
action.
Right.
Can I get a light?
Highlight a gap, or they talk about people in Thailand. They're approached on the street by a child. Well, at first in the book, they don't mention that the person that comes up to them asking for a light is a child, but then they eventually reveal that, and the adults or the people smoking say, "No, aren't you too young for that? Or don't you know smoking's bad for you?" And that's where highlighting a gap, like, they acknowledge that is bad for them,
Right.
but they're telling kids not to do
Because
it.
they're trying to protect them.
So it's like, and I posted this on my story. It says at the very bottom, it's a small note folded into fours because they handed the people that were smoking, and the kid walked away. So they handed the adults a note that were smoking, and it says, "A secret passed under the table at school. You worry about me," it said, "but why not worry about yourself?"
Yeah.
So I think that's what a lot of people in our society now kind of live in, that like they're so worried about other people and like, oh, why you do that, or like so judgmental, rather than like fixing the gaps you have, work on the gaps you have in your life that like you aren't perfect at.
I
You know
saw
what
this
mean?
really funny video on Instagram, and he's like, "How can someone with acne be racist?" He goes, "Why don't you worry about your own skin?" And I just thought that shit was funny because, like, it's exactly what you said. Hey, you should bring order to your own house before you can judge other people.
Exactly.
That's rule number 2, right?
That's my I love saying that.
What?
To my mom. Put your own house in order.
Yeah,
House in
for
order
real.
before
Before
trying to get
pointing
someone
out the chaos in somebody else's house.
Yeah.
Make sure your
Dead
house is
ass,
perfect.
yo.
I feel like we covered a good amount on this.
Yeah,
Feel like finding the gap or
me too.
highlighting the gap.
I wanted to talk about start with understanding.
Yeah. we can
Page
jump there.
43.
Okay.
This figure here, I wanted to discuss it.
Oh, understanding, trust, and change.
Yeah.
Oh, that's stocks. They always go up.
Yeah. So on our y-axis we have active listening, and our x-axis we have time. And so I just wanted to like discuss this with you guys. I want to hear all your guys' how you perceive this.
Just this diagram?
Yeah, just break it down for me.
Yeah, the beginning of the chapter where he mentions life is like the hare race, like the tortoise versus the hare, and then change is like a small part in between. There is a sloth.
Three-toed sloth.
Yeah, three-toed sloth on its lunch break.
Right.
And we all know that sloths move like fucking slow motion.
Yeah.
Utopia.
So
Yeah. So
yeah, it's a big tell.
every DMV worker I've ever seen.
And so like I think this graph is if like we were looking at this is like a 10-year span.
10-year span.
Yeah, this
Okay.
is not like a small, like it's a graph, like obviously the bottom is the time. And then
Right.
I think that's the most important part. Like understanding might be 3 years, trust might be 4 years, and change might be the rest, right? Like,
Okay. So
me,
you're breaking it down to x-axis.
For me, the way I see it, and I'm a big fan of time. I used to always think to be a better welder, I need to put more hood time. To be a better shape, I need to put more time in the gym. The way I see this is time equals everything. First, you need to understand what you're doing. Then you go to trust in your own process. Once you get that handled, you'll finally see change. And that can be at any time frame. But first you need to understand, trust the process, change. And then keep going. Understand the next concept, trust the process, you see change.
Nice.
yeah, definitely.
I think it's interesting that I don't remember in math if like this line
It's a direct
is
relationship.
the fastest one, right? I'm not sure, but I think it's interesting that active listening is the sloped line, you know, because that one is the one that's it's making everything go. Time is gonna happen, yes, and understanding in combination with understanding, trust, and change time. But I think without active listening, then you wouldn't get to the actual change, which is like it's like the faster of them or something. That's what I'm kind of seeing. Like active listening is the middle.
That's the hardest part. Because we understand that majority of people, when they're quote unquote listening, they're thinking of already something else. They're thinking a premeditated statement to say after that person's done talking.
So let's define active listening.
For the readers?
Sure.
I think active listening is you being able to listen to somebody and then fully, not paraphrase, but fully put into context what that person is saying in your own words, but not missing any details.
The Rogerian method.
Exactly.
Is that repeated back to them? Okay.
To their satisfaction.
So
Okay.
if you can't do that when you're listening to somebody in a story, a conversation, then you're not you're not actively listening.
I think that's really good. Anybody else have anything to add?
I think for me, a really good test you guys can do to see if you're a good listener is if you're ever having a conversation with somebody and you guys get off topic and the person goes, "Where did I leave off?" If you can pick up where they left off and run it back, that means you were actively listening. You weren't just kind of there thinking,
Right.
He's going crazy.
yeah. Oh my God.
Also listening without the intent to immediately reply.
Right.
If you're just listening to someone talk and the whole time in your head you're like, oh, I can't wait till they stop talking, so I'm just gonna grill them and
Fry
roast them, torch their ass, you know.
Yeah. Fucking, you know what I'm saying?
That is not
Toast
actually
action.
active listening.
Right.
It's actually passive listening.
Yeah.
If listening at all. Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah.
You're
hearing.
You're hearing.
Yeah,
Yeah, you hear them.
Definitely. I thought what was really interesting, it didn't click till John was talking, but what does this remind you of?
The graph?
Yeah.
The 4 dimensions? Or no, the quadrant?
From that book, right? In that book, the quote that I have on my whiteboard is in order to in order to progress on increasingly higher planes, you have to learn, commit, and do.
Those spiral, upward spiral.
Upward spiral, right? Understanding, learn, trust, commit, change, do.
Yeah.
Right? So this is the cycle of an upward spiral. Right? And so this is just what made me think of that increasing spiral. It's the last chapter in 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Highly suggest you pick it up. With active listening as the y-axis on there, right? So in order to learn, you have to actively listen. And in order to trust, you have to actively listen, right? So it's a direct relationship between actively listening and time. So as time progresses, you need to get better at active listening in order to learn, change, and do. And this, it's not a 3-step process,
Yeah.
right? The x-axis is infinite.
Yeah.
So it's just infinite steps up if you're doing it right. It could be a spiral, it could be a staircase.
And also understanding where it gets flat at understanding and it gets flat at trust, that could take longer than understanding can take longer than trusting. Your trust might, like once you understand them, your trust might come in and then you're out into the change.
Right.
Like instantly.
Right.
So
it could be straight up just like that. Yeah,
literally.
definitely. That makes me think of like working out too. You know what I mean? You work out, you hit a plateau. You know with results, and then you work out and then you hit a plateau, and then you work out and you hit a plateau, and it's just never ending.
You have to adapt to that change.
Stair stepper. You know what I'm saying? Definitely. I just thought it was a really interesting diagram. Figure worth breaking down.
Nice. Yeah, that was cool. It's so crazy, Jay, how you like have really good memory with like certain topics from the books we read. And you could see the parallels like super well. I'm like, oh shit, crazy. Do you reread Seven Habits like?
Sometimes. My mom, she was real. I brought it up to her and shared a lot of the stuff in that book, and so she's been reading it, and so we'll have discussions
That's so sick.
quite
super
frequently. Dope. So she's actually been picking up on the books that we've. You know,
Way to be a catalyst in your family, Dre.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks. Dude. Yeah, so she's gonna be reading Nice Bike next, I think. So she's gonna kind of tag along.
I love Nice Bike. I just
Catalyst.
think how it's so applicable in joint life. You know.
Yeah.
Catalyst King, bro.
I don't know. I feel like we really wrapped up this. If you guys have any, I just have one more thing at the end of the chapter.
Okay. Is there one more? Isn't there one more thing out of the 4 things?
No, we're on the
No, it's
understanding is the last one.
Okay, bet.
I just wanted to mention 2 things.
Okay.
So there's this book called Emotional Intelligence by
it's 2.0,
Goleman, David Goleman.
Yeah, the 2.0, right?
The original. And the biggest thing he mentions in that book is empathy, if you can recall.
Yeah.
But on page 44, third paragraph, it says, before people will change, they have to be willing to listen. They have to trust the person they're communicating with. And until that happens, no amount of persuasion is going to work. Mm-hmm. Establish your ethos with this party. That's what I got from that.
I think that if you were to define probing, that is the opposite of probing.
Right.
Like probing is that definition without the form of trust. You're just trying to push and push and push.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if that person trusts you, if you even know that person.
Right.
You're just trying to persuade them and tell them what you think is right.
Right.
I think that's what probing is.
And then on the next page, it says to listen to someone else and put themselves in that person's shoes rather than move directly towards resolution. But resolution can only be achieved after building the foundation to get there. Mm-hmm. And so, that's understanding trust and then change. This is kind of the what they're talking about here. But I think a really big thing with anybody that if you're trying to convince them to do something is establish your credibility, right? If I want to convince somebody to go to school, I have to show them why it benefited my life.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, if I'm just some regular dude, I'm not trying to shut on anybody's job or anything like that, but let's say I just work at a gas station. Nothing wrong with working at a gas station. But if I just work at a gas station, never went to college for a day in my life, and I was like, yeah, go to school.
Preaching people to go to school.
Your word means dirt to me because you have no experience in this and you're not a credible source. Mm-hmm. So establishing your ethos across whatever you're going to talk about it's highly important. You can depend on logos and pathos for a lot of things, but if you really want to institute change in somebody, they have to see your credibility as a source.
True.
It's interesting.
That's really all I have.
I think a lot of these books that we read are very like intertwined with each other. Like on the very last page 49, it says everything we just mentioned, getting trust and building relationships. He mentions it's like weeding a garden. The quickest approach is grab the top of the weed, rip it out of the ground, and move on to the next one. But while that is the fast way to make things look better, it's a terrible long-term solution because if only the top of the weed is removed, it just grows back soon. Or what seems like a shortcut ends up taking more time. To truly get rid of weeds or change minds, find the root. Discover what needs and whatever needs and motivations are driving behavior in the first place. Find the root and the rest will follow. I think that's like building trust in the core value. Some people want to just not change your mind. Like, let's go to the gym now. Let's start changing your lifestyle. But that you have to change mentality. You have to change the way you see yourself. You have to start to build confidence. Like that's a slow process.
Right.
Or maybe even just step back and evaluate how can this be done more efficiently. Because when you brought that up, it reminded me, I work at welding. Sometimes welding in position takes longer, okay? But a lot of times our foreman would want us to get all our pipe up in the racks, and then that way when our bosses would come, it looks like more has been done. But all it would do is that when the time came for me to connect the dots, it would take me a lot longer. Because I had to do it off the ladder, and it was sketchy, and I couldn't do it, I couldn't see. They didn't care. And they didn't care my input about, hey, if we just took an extra week now for me to do as many welds as possible here on the ground on a vise and then put it up, it's maybe 2 welds up there. Now I gotta do 20 welds up there. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. And then he was like, no, you don't have to talk about John, blah, 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 we're gonna send it. And then when the time came and it took me forever to fucking do all those 20 welds, they'd be like, why did it take me so long? It's like, I already told you why it took me so long. You guys never wanted to sit back and evaluate long term, what's the more efficient way to do it? Do we want to make it look like we're doing a lot, or do we want to just do a lot? At the end of the day, the timeline's better. And I always would get, and I love that company. Fuck you guys.
Yeah, definitely. How are you guys feeling about the case study? Are you guys good?
Oh, it was interesting. I read it, but
Yeah, I read it.
it's nothing crazy. It's just a story.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was chapter 1, Reactance of Catalyst, How to Change Anyone's Mind by Jonah Berger. Highly recommend you guys pick it up. Read along with us. We'd love to hear your comments. Leave them down below.
Hell yeah, baby.
All right, man. Much love, y'all. Take it easy.
Subscribe. Like the video.
Like the video.
You know what I'm
Practice consent.
Always get consent. Hit the IG.
Safe
Follow.
sex, use a condom.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to this chapter titled Reactance in the brand new book that we've decided to read as a group titled The Catalyst by Jonah Berger. And again, I want to remind you guys, head down to the description. Follow us on all social media pages. We'd love to stay in contact with you guys. Remember to like, subscribe, and comment so we can stay up to date on how we can improve this channel. And last but not least, now equals tomorrow. Thank you guys.